Thank you so much, Dr. Harris, and to all of those who are here today. On behalf of all of our personnel, we thank you so much for this opportunity. Pastor Daniels and the church community, it is so important for us to share this information with you regarding cybersecurity. And I am going to wear two hats today. I'm going to start with my first hat of where I work with Pittsfield Township Department of Public Safety and my consulting aspect of everything that we do. And most importantly, I want to thank Dr. Harris because, yes, we have been friends for many years, and my lovely wife, Phyllis, who we will celebrate 40 years together in 2 weeks. My dear, lovely wife, Phyllis, I love her so much, and our two beautiful adult children, one who's living in Chicago with management, working in restaurants, and my daughter who is on Broadway, traveling abroad and performing. So we have been very blessed as a family. And I am also a pastor's son. I am in the middle of 10 from Saginaw, Michigan, and 9 of us remaining. And of the 4 sons, 3 of them are pastoring, and Dad used to tell me that I was out there bootlegging with everything that we were involved with doing. But it's so important for us to make sure that we share this information. And I'm going to do something really unique today with having this opportunity to be here in the city of Ann Arbor. I'm going to ask my Ann Arbor Police Department personnel who I see who have arrived, because in this line of what we do with the challenges of cybersecurity, identity theft, and fraud, we want to make sure that if you are a victim and you live within the city, come on up, sir. We want to make sure that we share with you what you need to do if you are an Ann Arbor resident and you are a victim, or you are getting spammed, or you are in the process of someone trying to get you to send money by gift cards, by Bitcoin, all of the things that we're going to share with you today, with the dangers that are out there, with them frightening you in order to make you give information. And we want to make sure that we pull that cloak back and protect you from being a victim. So I'm going to ask my partners here from Ann Arbor PD.
My name's
Rick, and also Kindly, my pleasure. Talk to our audience as well as Ann Arbor City personnel, what this important role about. Come this way a little bit, because we got the cameras all set up. We're doing this.
So my name is Ricky Spratt. I work with Ann Arbor Police Department. Been there for at least 3 years now. Came from Lansing Police, 5 years there. We were instructed to come and support. And for Pittsfield, it's a sergeant who's particularly speaking on the intricate details of how to stay out of harm's way when it comes to this. However, we're very thankful that you all welcomed us to the home, and we're looking forward for more visits. But what I would recommend, and I tell everybody is, if you don't know something, we're 24 hours, toll-free line. Just give us a call. We have welcoming faces. We come out, we talk to you. We try to problem solve. We try to be proactive, and we try to get in front of issues. So if you're not sure of something, I always say take a pause, because nothing should be rushed under pressure, and just thoroughly think through it.
Beautiful. That's what we want. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. We'll still stay around with you for the other half of it, but it's a beautiful church. I really appreciate it.
And this is something that is so important as we work with the Crime Prevention Association of Michigan. We've been involved over 30 plus years, serving in many capacities with the organization statewide as well as nationally. But it's so important for us to share with you what we're sharing with communities across the state of Michigan. And as I work with my peers and sharing the information that I have been able to obtain with this resource format. And what's so important about this presentation today is that I'm going to give you a roadmap. And as I share this information with you, we're going to look at from a macro perspective of what's going on nationally, and then we're going to look at what's happening at the local level here in the state of Michigan. We are using resources from the National Federal Trade Commission, the FBI, a number of resources from a variety of cybersecurity groups that we've worked with that has shared information with law enforcement, in addition to those who are looking at how do you help make sure that people understand the dynamics of what's going on right now with scams, fraud, text messages, emails, you name it, it's all coming at us at neck wreck speed, if I can say that. This is amazing what we're experiencing right now, particularly as it deals with data breaches. Just this week alone, Bank of America, if you have a Bank of America account and you went and put your card in or tried to do something, you got a zero balance. This week as well, the city of Flint had a cybersecurity access in their entire system. Also this week, Wayne County's entire system was breached. Our information is all over the map, whether we want it out there or not. This is the frightening part about lack of control of what our personal data is in the hands of all of these various entities. So as I share this with you, we're going to go through what types of scams and frauds that we're seeing, in addition to how do you help protect these devices that are now just not a cell phone, they're mini computers. And everything that you store on these devices, someone can hack into and get access to. So it's important to know how to do the settings in your cell phone. And this is something that we want to make sure that everybody knows if you have an iPhone or if you have an Android. Android means any device that's not an Apple. So any of those other devices that you have, you will be able to see. What's important about my presentation today, and this is something that we do in all of our efforts, what we're sharing with you today is information and resources. These are not specifics on what your particular scenario may be, so that if you are a victim, you need to follow up with the entities that you're getting information from, particularly as it relates to getting those letters that there has been a data breach. Take them seriously, because your information from that entity is now out there on the dark web. This is something that we want to make sure that this is not legal advice, but it's information that we want to share with you what we're seeing, what the resources are, how do you get access to them. From a national perspective, and this is something that I find really interesting, from the National Federal Trade Commission, they study and get access to reports nationwide about the impact of identity theft and fraud. And when I talk about those two categories, I've got 2 years that I always show, the current year that the data has been assembled and the previous year. So we can look at 2022 of 5.2 million reports that were submitted that reflected either identity theft or fraud, or how was that information used. Looking at 2023, the numbers always go up. 5.4 million reports. Here's what's interesting about this, because I work with a lot of personnel who will call and say, Mr. Coleman, I know that I've been doing a number of workshops. You've talked about this in homeowners association meetings and all of the things that we are hearing and know, but I still fell prey to it. I clicked a link that took me somewhere, or I sent money somewhere that I shouldn't have, and now it's gone. I don't want to file a report because I'm too embarrassed, because I just shouldn't have done it. I always encourage, please file the report, because that information is what will be in this data. So this is why it's important to always file a police report, to make sure, for 2 reasons, that it's in the system so that we know about it, but also a number of the credit card companies, if someone steals your data and creates credit cards, they need for you to prove that it wasn't you. The police report will do that, because you're saying, I need to make sure that I am protected. What's interesting is that there's some agencies now you have to encourage and just say, I need a report for a report and filing information with the company. Because there's so many of these fraud reports, as you can see last year, 5.4 million. And this is something that's so important, because you had a number of resources that you're going to be referred to by a number of these agencies to go online to file a report. And I will show you where they are. But the most important part about this is to get the police report number. That way you have it documented with those entities that someone has created or recreated you online to get the information. Here's what's happened in the state of Michigan. And I talk about comparison. This is 2022. Michigan was 24th in the nation for fraud and other reports. And if you scroll down, I've got arrows next to identity theft reports. We were 24th. And when you look at the categories of identity theft and how are they using the information, and it's always the same thing that we have to, let's go back there. We have to go back to how are they getting that information and how are they using it. So when we look at this data from 2022, and we'll see the little dots on the state of Michigan in the map, you can see where the reporting is. Southeast Michigan, where the majority of the population is hit the hardest. So it's important for us to make sure that not only do we know where, but what are we doing with this information and how are they getting access to it? Here's 2023, last year. We were 23rd, not 24th as we were the year previous. We're 23rd now with fraud and identity theft, just fraud, and 20th with identity theft. So this is what's happening with our data by these individuals who collect it, they use it without your knowledge, and then you're getting bombarded with notices of payment or the lack of payment. It is so important when you start getting those is to start inquiring, where is my information and who's using it? We are so vulnerable because our information is out there. And that's something that as we go through this process, we want to make sure that we follow through on all of the things that we can do. Data breaches. I need to spend a lot of time just referencing what this information is. And when these national reports that come out from these entities that say you've been a victim or a potential victim, that you need to, if they tell you that you have access to a free service for monitoring your credit, take it. Take it. Sign up for it. Because if one has it and it's out there in the dark web, all of these individuals who are surfing the web to look for information on you, to use your information, they've got it. Your social security number, your address, passwords to various accounts, your emails, all of that information based on how these sites, when you log in, they have that information. And when those individuals who are what we call hacktivists, and there's actually a conference, an international conference of the hacktivists to see who can get into the largest protected entity. And this is something that about 10 years ago when I came across an article on it, I just was stunned that these guys all over the world, it's like a video game. How can we get underneath their cybersecurity systems? And a lot of times, the easiest way that they do it is that they send emails to individuals thinking that they're going to click this link because they don't know any better. And it's sad. Unfortunately, a lot of our businesses, we have training that we do. We have different things that we do within our departments and our entities to make sure that employees know, don't click suspicious links. And if they do, they will get a notice and then they'll have to go to more training. But as consumers and us who are in the process of everyday business, we have to know that these individuals get, if our information is exposed, social security numbers, our online passwords, bank account, credit or debit card information, all of that can be exposed with these data breaches. And every day we're hearing about another one. So when I show you this information today about where these entities are and what kinds of scams and frauds that are out there, it's also important to know that how am I protecting myself? And the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you harden the target. That means every device that you have, your computer, your cell phones, social media. I have a whole lot to say about social media because we're just out there. And most of our social media sites aren't private. They're in the public domain. So when these individuals get this information and they get your name, guess where they're going to go to next? They're going to go to Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media sites to see where's your information and who are your children, your grandchildren that you have all these pictures of, that we want to know a name. So when we call you with a scam, we can tell you an exact name because you've given it to us. This information for us all is so critical for us to protect. Not to be frightened by this, but it just becomes a way of life with these devices and the information that we have. So it's important for us to share with you, when we look at these scams, how big is this thing? How wide is this? The top 20 scams, 2023. Email phishing, and I'm a fisherman. I love to fish. My father we used to go up north to our place, and I'd go out and catch me some crappies and some bluegills and some bass and walleye, and we'd have a big fish fry with the family. This fishing is not going out to the lake. This fishing, P-H-S-I-N-G, is fishing for information from you. So this is important when we talk about these scams: Social Security, IRS, debt collections, lottery scams, car WAP scams, rental scams, and on. When we talk about the process and where do they go, and all of us probably get the text messages and email scams from Xfinity, from Amazon, from PayPal. If they've got your email address, they're going to send you something to ask you to send it in Bitcoin or get a gift card. Give them the 16 digits that's on the front and then the 3 PIN numbers on the back. As soon as you give it, that money's gone. You can't get that back. What we're seeing with these types of scams is very frightening. Experian, our 3 credit reporting bureaus. Equifax 2 years ago was hacked into. The company that has all the information to protect us, they got hacked. There is no system that these individuals won't attempt to or be successful with getting under their cybersecurity protection walls. We're seeing it at every level. And all of these entities, it's just unbelievable to see how it is. And every day when we wake up, that's what we're going to hear on the news. What is the next data breach? Who is the next one that happened? For 3 entities this week, and it's like every week there's more. You know, we talk about Bank of America, Wayne County, City of Flint. Every community that has these individual systems has the potential of being hacked into. So these are the things that are referencing from these entities that are looking at our data and what's happening with them. Artificial intelligence, when you keep hearing that AI information, and we're talking about the fear of AI, it's real. The artificial intelligence that's blooming around us has the potential to do so many good things as well as bad. And how do we protect ourselves from this? Because when we look at the pluses, we also have to look at the minuses. And that's what a lot of these companies are doing with looking at how do you work with this information that's out there in the domain, student loans, phone scams, Zelle, P2P, peer-to-peer transferring of funds, PayPal, Zelle, Givelify, Cash App, all of those that are connected to how do you transfer money from your account to charitable churches as well as individuals that you want to help, family members and friends, as well as donations with what we're seeing right now with Helena and the catastrophic scenario, what's happening in North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, where the storm hit and literally just wiped out communities. Our prayers are with all of those families that they cannot find. It's really frightening to see that. But just as well as there are positives that are happening to help, trust me, the scammers are setting up websites as well. And if you're not really paying attention to who you're sending money to, the Red Cross and all of these various entities, you could be sending it right to the scammers. They love these type of things that everybody's hearts just, I got to help somehow. I'll send some money here and I'll help out. But you may be sending it to someone who is looking to victimize you. Cryptocurrency. Oh my goodness. It's so confusing and scary. when you get something and somebody's calling you or sending you something to say, I need to pay you in crypto. I need you to pay me with cryptocurrency. Go to the bank, get that digital wallet out and create one with your financial institution. Take the money from your account, put it in the digital wallet, and then send it to me. It's like there's nothing like paper money. I want some George Washingtons in my hand. If I'm going to send, that's not what you're going to do with cryptocurrency. You're not going to see it like that. And it's very frightening when you have, and as I touch on this, these scams that are going on, particularly the grandparent scam, the romance scams, the things that we're seeing where they're telling you to do Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. It is so frightening because the first thing that you hear is like, oh my God, somebody's in trouble and I got to help them. And the first thing that they say, when they say that you got to send it in one of these formats, it's okay to hang up on these folks. My father-in-law, he was 95, I was his power of attorney. And Dad would never put his phone down because that was his connection to the world. And I used to laugh when the Microsoft scammers would call the house, and Dad was in his second phase of dementia, and he would carry on such a conversation with them, and they hung up on him. They hung up on him. I would sit back, and a couple different times I'd grab the phone and sit and just listen to what he would be challenging them on. Tell me I got a computer. I don't even have the computer. How do you know? Well, you do have. No, I don't. It was hilarious, but a lot of times the individuals who fall prey to giving them access to your computer. And what they will do is says, I'm going to have you log into this screen, which gives me access to your computer so I can help you. And it'll only cost you $395 for me to make sure that I clean your computer and fix all this for you. They don't tell you that now I have access to everything on your computer. I'm going to download your files. I'm going to see where you bank. I'm going to see where your passwords are. That's what they do when they get that information. So trust me, it's okay. Hang up on them. Hang up on them. It's not, it puts you in a situation that is just unfortunate, that it's a challenge. But it's so important for us all to remember that when they call you, and it's frightening to hear these phone calls, what am I supposed to do? And so before you send money or engage, think about it, take a big, deep breath, hold the phone out there. I'm not going there. I listened to one of the pastor's sermons recently, and he was talking about from Daniel's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. See, I witnessed God. I would heard to Pastor Daniels. I enjoyed that sermon. But when we talk about affirmations that the saints do here at the church, and when you look at what those affirmations are every Sunday, the commitment to yourselves to add to that, spiritual affirmations, is what can I do to make sure I protect my family? Because these data breaches aren't just you individually, it's your entire family. My wife and I talk about every letter that comes in. We have our frozen, put credit freezes on everything, but we want to make sure we're in concert with what are we getting. And the emails that might come in that look suspicious, what are we supposed to do with them? Delete them. Put them in the junk folder. Block the email address. That's why this is so important for us to share with you these types of scams, particularly online, the phishing scams, charity scams, investment scams, payment app scams. Those are P2P. When you see P2P, peer-to-peer is what that means. So everywhere that you are donating or sending money to, that's what these types of payment apps do. Tax, IRS, Social Security, impersonation scams, job hiring, cybersecurity malware scams, but also the romance scam. We are seeing so much happening with romance scams and grandparent scams. And I've got some screens a little bit farther down that we're going to specifically dive into. What does that mean? What are they doing and how to avoid being a victim? But the common ways that they get access to your information from you, emails, suspicious links, and it looks just like it's from the company. Because they could go in and backspace or go to Google Images, to find all of the information and images of all of these companies. And they can import them into these emails. And if they use ghost auto dialing, G-O-H-S-T, ghost, there's a lot of things that we're seeing with these auto dialing formats. They can put 734 in, and every cell number, every home phone will get an auto dialed message. Same thing with these emails. If they get access to an email database, they will send the same message out to everybody to see who's going to fall prey to it. And when you are looking at that email, before you click a suspicious link, something about this email doesn't look right. I get emails from all of my companies all the time, but something is missing from this. And they put just enough in the header and then down below to make sure that it looks like it's legitimate. But 9 times out of 10, it's a fake. So they clone, they do whaling, they do pop-up, all of these things that are happening with what's going on before it gets to you with how they set it up. Cryptocurrency scams, online scam prevention. The type of cryptocurrency scams that we're seeing a lot of: social engineering scams, romance scams, phishing, investment, rug pull, initial coins, imposter, blackmail, cloud mining, employment scams. About 7, 8 years ago, I got an unemployment letter and confirmation sent to my home and as well as my employer. I immediately called and said, HR department, what is this? And someone had hacked into, I had just purchased and leased a new vehicle 3 months earlier through GM, and someone hacked into the third-party app through GM. It took me about a month to figure out how'd they get my information. The third-party vendor for the automotive company was hacked into. And these individuals just randomly start sending unemployment applications. So, of course, we denied it, and everything was stopped from the state. But that was okay, here we go again. Make sure that it's out there. Put the credit freeze on and make sure we change passwords. But these types of things happening so frequently, and sometimes we just look at mail and don't pay attention to it and just kind of throw it in the recycle bin, or I always encourage shredding. When you're done with your documents, shred them. We have what's called professional dumpster divers. They like to go in trash cans. They like to look in who's thrown something away that didn't pay attention to it. All your information is in that document, your bank statements and everything else. That, yep, I filed and okay, everything's recorded, and you just throw it away. They've got enough information to start the process. Shred everything and get a little small shredder and do as much as you can. Or on the free shred days, make sure that you go countywide. We have them at different times throughout the county at Pioneer High School, and the locals will announce that we have free shredding days. Take them up on it. If you don't have a shredder, make sure that you do the necessaries. But these online scam and the prevention that's important about them is to make sure that you know, how am I going to make sure I protect myself? There is what's called two-factor authenticating now that you can set up with your banks. You can set up with all of your financial institutions, credit cards, any of your entities, so that when you go to it, they will go to that authenticating app, and you have to approve, yes, that's me. That way it protects, if they don't have the app, and most of it's on our phones and secured on our phones, that you protect your information before someone else gets it. And that way no one can get into your accounts or get information that you did not authorize. Social media and its impact and those who are falling prey. What we're seeing is the most impersonated brands in phishing schemes. And these formats, these search engines that we all have, you can lock down your search engines. You can also go in and delete the history from your Google account. You can go into the settings and say delete 18 months or delete all my history, just to make sure that if someone gets access to your account, they can see, oh, well, they went to this bank, what's there? Okay, this is the bank that they bank with, so I'll look for that banking information. All of your history, every time that we go online to do a search, either on Safari, Google, Yahoo, any of those search engines, there's a history of every time that you go to them. You want to delete those histories every once in a while, or just don't keep them. Just make sure that everything that you do is wiped clean. But these social engineering processes that we're seeing with this impersonation, on social media in particular, that's why I always encourage, make sure that you either have it private for your family and you only, or you make sure that all of the people, there's 600-700 people that want to become your friends. Do you know all those people before you just, oh my God, I get a lot of clicks if I say yes to all these people. But if you don't know all those people, don't give them access to your personal information that you might put up on Facebook or any of those social media accounts. A lot of times what we're seeing, these particular individuals who look for data, particularly as it relates to romance and the grandparent scam, those that they prey on people, they want to see, who are you friends with? Who are your grandchildren? Because there's a lot of young people no longer on Facebook. It's all of us. It's we who are communicating with our families, we go to the church services, we see a lot of things that's there. But it's so important to remember, when you have a public social media page, not only is it for you, but it's anybody that's looking for information. If they find your information on the dark web, they're going to find it also on social media because your site is public. I have a private site, and it's for my immediate family. And even though a lot of folks from the churches and everywhere else that I know, oh, Brother Coleman, I want to be your friend on Facebook. I'm sorry. I just don't. I see hundreds of them with the, please, put me on, let me become a friend of yours. I just don't want that type of communications because I can control it. So if you have a public Facebook page, consider making it private. That way these individuals who get this information can't get to you or find out what your grandchildren's names are or information about you. Because we love to tell everybody how we're doing today. Particularly, what did we have for dinner last night? Look at these pictures of my meal that I cooked up. Good old cornbread, and look at this Sunday morning dinner on a Friday night. I'm just loving it. But it's so important to remember, before you put that information out there, just think somebody else is going to be looking at it as well. And it might be for nefarious purposes, not for legitimate purposes to help you. So these phone scams, particularly as it relates to your cell phone, and we're seeing now everybody can buy up these phone lists. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting 4, 5, 6, 7 text messages a day to give to someone to donate somewhere. I go up and block the number, and then I swipe it over to put it in my junk folder. Because I can't trust anything that's sent to me. Even though you might be, I'm supporting this person, and this is what I want to. You didn't ask for that text. You didn't ask them to reach out to you. But they got your name and they got, click this link. You don't know where that link is going. And as soon as you reply to that, you told everybody who has those lists, this is a good number. So they're going to sell your number to somebody else. And that's how the process works when we look at these. How do you get this information across the board? Who's a member of AARP? Got any AARP members in the room? Big fan of AARP Michigan. Da-da-da-da. I love this magazine. In this magazine, they talk about when hackers attack me. A great article. This was in the January-February edition of this year. I like to read this because as I've worked with AARP of Michigan, Michigan elder law, Michigan substance abuse and abuse for Washtenaw County, and we're looking at how seniors are being victimized, we need to know every resource available in order to help our community. And this is something that as we see this ghost calling, and how do they occur? Again, they're auto dialing systems. These systems, they have all of these scammers that have access to this information, but caller ID spoofing, which means they're going to put a number in that's 202 out of Washington, or they may use 734, but that number is actually going somewhere else. You can actually go to Google and sign up for a free telephone number. Google will give you a free telephone number, and a lot of these scammers use that. And this is something that I see this information coming across. I see it even coming in some of the text messages and emails to me, because I like to see, where's this coming from? Who is this? Who is this sending me information? And there are certain ways that you can go in and see the email address when you hover over the bar at the top of it where the email address came in from. You can hover over it to see who sent you the email, as well as I like to look up the area code. That's a strange area code. Where's that coming from? All of these entities that are out there looking at ways of how do they get to you. The Federal Trade Commission and robocalls, how to avoid them, and again, don't trust caller ID. You might see a name, you might see a number on the screen, but is it legitimately from the company that it's saying it's from? And we get them, and who knows the best time that you're going to get a spam or sales phone call? Dinner time. Everybody's sitting down for dinner. So from 5 to 7 p.m., your phone just ringing off the hook. And you just look, who is that calling me? I'm sitting with my family having dinner. And lo and behold, when you look at it, and the way I've got my VoIP, or voice over internet provided service with my Xfinity account, it's not a landline, it's voice over internet provided service. So it's all digital. So I have my phone set up. Tell me if it's a spam phone call. It won't even ring. It'll just say spam, unknown number, unknown person. And I don't call them back. I block them. But they call and they call and they call. They want to find out. If you're sitting down with dinner, you got a second to pick the phone up. And they want to sell you something or get your information. Just first thing, is this a good number? If it's a good number, if you answer it. So no. I'm not going to answer it, nor am I going to call it back. I am going to block this number. But this is something that's important for us to know, particularly with robocalls, because there is a legal process for robocalling. And as those individuals and the companies that have the authority to do that, they have the approval to do it. And so you still take them with a grain of salt. Of course, this group has permission. These folks don't. So it's a blend. It's kind of weaving in and out of who is legitimate and who's not. But every robocall that comes in, I don't answer them. I just kind of look at them and say, okay, that's one less. Now I'm going to show you some things that have come to me. These are some of the emails and text messages, everything that I'm going to share with you about like this are ones I've received. And this is something, as I see them, I just kind of laugh at them, and Phyllis and I will sit together, and I will show her what just came to me. And if it comes to you, honey, just block it, delete it. But this is one of the phishing emails. And as you will see, and what I love about what we're doing today, Dr. Harris and community, as we're live streaming this, you will be able to go back and pause it when you look at the church's YouTube channel. And you can see this information that I'm sharing with you. And then where can you send the scam emails coming to you? PayPal has phishing@paypal.com. They want to know who is it that's impersonating our business. I send them all. This one that came to me, it's an invoice. Not only is it giving me an 832 number to call, there's customer support, and it's out of New York. But they're also wanting me to send them money in Bitcoin. Well, I'm not going to send nobody nothing in Bitcoin. The next one that's over, same thing, is coming out of New York. Check the item, $996 in US dollars. 0.14 units, that's cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. But they want you to make sure that you send it by auto pay or connect to them in order to get the payment to them for whatever you purchased on PayPal that you did not purchase, but they want you to believe it is. So they went in and Google imaged PayPal. So you see the PayPal at the top, but there's nothing legitimate about the PayPal email. Dead giveaway that it's a fake. Here's another one. The U.S. Postal Service. They also want you to forward spam emails at spam@uspis.gov. This one that came to me, mismatched delivery address. Okay, something that was sent somewhere else, and now I got to schedule a delivery. The hyperlink that's in that image, they want you to click that link, which will give them information to you about your account, your email, legitimate, all of the information. But what happens when you click these links, this is a part of the social engineering that's scary because malware is implanted in these hyperlinks. What is malware? Just how it sounds. It is a link that they put in that's going to get into your computer and plant itself to search everything that's on your computer to send back to them and give them access to whatever you have on your computer. When you click these links, you are exposing yourself and all of your information to these individuals that are sending this information. The next screen that's over, when I looked at the Postal Service's UPS, I'm not signed up for the Inform. Now, the UPS does have a format that you can sign up to know when your packages are being delivered. And ironically, there's 3 zip codes here in Washington County, and one is mine, that it doesn't work. And I talked to the postmaster, and he knows who I am, and I walked in one day, and you guys are really pushing this, but why is it in my zip code? He looked at me and said, Mr. Coleman, I'll have to look into that. I said, but I'm getting emails from you guys all the time about this, but this is something that I want to make sure that I know what's going on with it. But they don't have it in several zip codes here in Washington County. But when you look at where this email came from, when I talk about hovering over the email address that sent it to me, and you can see the flags that are up top. This is somewhere overseas. And look at the long email address. I've got an arrow there next to it. 8822-313177 at flowsumebackup.com. That's not UPS. So I knew that this is a scam. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You want me to update my payment information and send it to you overseas? That ain't gonna happen. These individuals who are doing this are looking at, how am I going to get someone to fall prey? We also have a lot of scams going on with the IRS. From the IRS website, they have that Identity Theft Central, that email address and the website that I've cited there, talking and working with the IRS fraud department. There's a lot of scams going on, and my oldest brother received one of the fake Social Security letters. I'm glad he called. I'm glad we talked about it, because I sent him, and they embossed it saying this is fake, and they've been putting it out just recently to make sure that people know the IRS is not going to send you a letter like that. Because people assume, I've been hacked into, and the IRS just gave me a new Social Security number. No, they didn't. The IRS is not going to give you a new Social Security number. Your entire life history is all connected to that one Social Security number that we all know by heart. We all know the last 4 digits because that's what we're always asked. What's the last 4 digits of your Social Security number? You can do it in your sleep. But they will not do that. They will not send you information. They will not ask you to send them some information like this to recreate you. So this is important. They also have sending the information and the fake emails, which I have done and encouraged others when they get these, is to send it to the phishing@irs.gov. What I like about what these companies do, Xfinity, the Postal Service, all of them that ask you to get that information, they trace down those email addresses and they block them in their systems. The more that they have of who is trying to impersonate them, the better it is to help stop the scams and the fraud that we're seeing. Here's another one that's relatively new this year, called brushing. This is part of the Amazon scams that we're seeing, and Amazon packages. It's not just who's taking the packages off my porch. Now they're putting multiple packages on your porch. And what's happened, if they do that, the individuals who are selling items on Amazon are now using your home address. They've got information on you. But a lot of times what we're seeing with these scams with Amazon and these selling places like this, they will send packages to you to beef up 5-star, that now you, as a customer, that they're saying you're a customer, you gave them a 5-star. Here's what Amazon is saying. If you get these deliveries like this and stack them up on your porch, and you're calling to find out, since they're in your name, you get to keep them. I was surprised when I heard that, and I read it. I was like, okay, this is interesting. But the packages that are sent to you in your name, you can send them back to the company, but they're going to tell you, if you'd like to keep them, ma'am, we really don't want them back. Because a lot of these services centers, when they get return packages, they have these sell-offs, and they will do these unannounced sell-offs of packages sent back to Amazon. It could be from something really high quality to junk, but they're saying it's in your name, so you can keep it. But be concerned that if you get a stack of packages on your porch that you didn't order, why am I getting this? Who's got your information? And that's what we're seeing with this, with the postal inspection, these unsolicited deliveries, part of a larger scam. It's a practice is illegal in the U.S., can expose a recipient to identity theft. They got your address, they got your name. How'd they get this, and where is it? And that's the thing that we have so much concern about when we're saying this. Shifting gears once again, because these couple of items that I'm going to talk about now are probably the most frightening that we're seeing. Across the country, we are seeing the grandparent scam played out in real time. Just recently, we had one of our residents lose $60,000 because she believed that the person who had the information about her grandson, who was in custody, and she was told, don't hang up because the police will come and arrest you. They will scare you that you have to send money for their legal services to get them out of jail or to help them deal with some type of overseas issue. And the first thing that they say, when they say, we got your grandson in custody and you need to send money right away, who do you have? And as soon as you say, is Johnny okay? Yes, Johnny's okay. You just gave him a name. And they're going to tell you, don't call anybody. Don't let anybody else know. Here's another step with this when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence. Think about this when you have these video clips on your cell phone and on your social media accounts with information at a party and everybody's talking. These individuals can go in and capture the voice, put it in an AI format in their app, type up a message in that voice is what you're going to hear. Your grandson or granddaughter's voice or loved one's voice will be in the text message or voice that they're sending to you. And you're like, oh my goodness, are you okay? And then they pause it. No, they're not okay. They need you to, they have the control of the device to stop the information. The grandparent scam, which is so scary right now, that we have so many people falling prey to it. It is so frightening to get the phone call. But before you do anything, I'm calling somebody else. No, don't call anybody else. They will be arrested or something. Hang up on them because they're not telling you the truth. I tell folks all the time, no, we're not coming to arrest you. This is not legitimate. It's not true. Make sure that you protect yourself because they want you to go out and get a Google gift card, an Apple Pay gift card, go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Target, but don't tell the cashier what you're doing. Don't tell them, and don't hang your phone up. So we have personnel that go to the store, they go to the bank first, and then they go to and they still got the phone in their hand because they told them don't hang up. And they're just waiting. What's the next step? Have you done A, B, C, D? Now that you're out in your car, read the 16-digit code that's on the front of the card. Now scratch off the little tape on the back and give me the 3 PIN number. As soon as you give that PIN number, that money's gone. You can't get that back. This is happening so much right now that it is frightening. So encourage your family members, encourage friends. And that's why I'm loving that we're videotaping this and we're posting it on YouTube, because you can go back to hear this presentation and you can pause it so you can see these screens. You can see the things that you need to do in order to protect yourself and your family. And this grandparent scam, it is happening so frequently across the country, across every avenue. There are videos, if you go on YouTube and just put in grandparent scam, you'll hear victims' stories about how they've been victimized. There are a couple of guys that are now computer engineers that are working to help protect consumers with these type of scams. And there's 2 of them that I watch their YouTube channels frequently, and they re-engineer hacking into the hackers' accounts. And they will get them on the line and pose as a grandparent, even disguising his voice, and get to these guys overseas. And once they connect in, he will give them access to his computer that he's got fake accounts set up. And then he will reverse it to get into their computers. And he knows where the files are of all of the people that they're scamming. He will delete everything on their computers. And they're all watching, and he's videotaping because he's got a screenshot of it, and they got cameras on their computers, as we all do. He can watch them freak out because their information that they've stolen from somebody else, he's stealing it from them. And then they start just arguing with him and calling him all kinds of names, and then he will tell them, I'm getting you because you're victimizing innocent people by doing what you're doing. And the one individual, he has actually set up a fund now that he's helping to replace funds from individuals who have been scammed. I thought it was just amazing to watch what he's done and the support that he's gotten from the community and the cyber community and those individuals who are watching and monitoring, that they have the ability to work with somebody to find out what's going on. Because with these scams like this, and they do so many different things to trick you into putting money in boxes or emailing it. They're even using Uber drivers now. We just had a tragic incident just happened recently. I forget what state it was in, but the lady who went to a home to pick up something that had been ordered through one of these scams, and the guy came out with his gun. She was innocently going to pick up a package, and he shot her. He was so distraught with losing so much money, and he thought she was a part of it. And unfortunately, she lost her life. Just frightening to see all of these different things that are going on with these types of scams. Here's another one that really, really is troubling. The romance scam. Dr. Harrison and I talked a little bit about this. In January of this year, the FBI came out with a report. And actually, there's a hyperlink to the story that's in the top of the PowerPoint here. This individual lost $500,000. The pig butchering scam. It's a part of the romance scam. And he was getting this pictures of this beautiful lady that he was going to marry and date, but she needed help with an investment. And this is over long periods of time of emailing and back and forth, and I'm going to come and I really want to marry you, but I need help with this investment to get there. Well, this individual emptied his retirement account, he emptied his 401k, every accessible funding source that he had to send to these guys, and it was all a scam. What they do with this pig butchering, I thought it was clever with the name, it's designed to make sure that we have individuals who we make these promises to with big returns on investment and support, as well as what's also going to happen. And we may get married out of this. We may have some legitimate investment opportunities together. And what is pig butchering? This definition by Trend Research and all of these different images and links, I'm giving credit to all of them because it's so important that we give credit to who's doing this research that we're all using as a crime prevention practitioner. And someone who has been, myself, monitoring and watching this evolve over the last 30 years. It went from a few back in the early 90s of people being victimized through email and scams and fraud to now we're at the apex. The numbers are staggering with the calls that we get and police reports being generated with fraud and identity theft and these types of scams that we're seeing. This investment scam that we're seeing with this pig butchering or the romance scam, we go all the way to the bottom, is derived from the idea that the scammers fatten up the victims with the promise of lucrative returns before slaughtering them for their money. And that's what they're doing with this. And all of these images and the story that was posted, and you see these pictures of these beautiful ladies that they kept sending him and making all of these promises to him. And he was a widower and he was lonely and he thought, this is the way I can find a wife. I think I found her. And if I make this investment, I'll have a partner for life. Little did he know that he was falling prey. He didn't know about this, but the FBI was monitoring it. They called him to tell him to stop sending money because of it being a scam. And first he didn't believe him because he was so locked in. I'm going to have a beautiful wife. I'm going to get married. Oh my goodness, why are you telling me this? And then they had to prove it to him. And then there was nothing they could do for him to get all that money back. His entire life savings, all gone in the blink of an eye. We talk about these phones. We talk about the type of scams that are out there, all the various that we're exposed to. And then let's look at our cell phones now. And this is why I like with what I'm going to show you right now with these screenshots of Apple and Android. When you look back at this, again, you can pause it and you can see, is that what I need to do on my phone? You can also go to your cell phone carriers. I need help with making sure I know in my settings how to protect my device. They will show you and help you lock your phone down. But I've got some screenshots to show you how and where these things are. These are, because I have two of them, this is something that one is for work and one is for home and family. But when we look at these settings to block the messaging, when you go into your messages, when you go into settings, that's where all of these items come up on the screen. And you want to make sure that in the settings you set up, how can I block these messages from coming in, or it specifically go to spam. It doesn't even ring. It just shows up and it has likely a spam message. And you want to make sure that you do that. So in the SIM messaging, when you turn it on, it will make sure that it's there to be able to block these messages or to just pop up or don't come up at all. Here's another one. In your settings, when you go to messages, and I've got arrows, or you can see where the arrow is with the item you want to collect. You want to connect with messages, and then you go to filter unknown senders. Turn it on. A lot of times when we're looking at our phones, and I've had a lot of grandparents and individuals when I've done this with other entities. I don't know what that means, Mr. Coleman. I'm not sure if I should send it to the right or to the left. If it's green, does that mean it's okay? Or if it's leave it alone? What should I do? If you push it over to where it turns green, then that means that it's on. And you want to turn on filter unknown senders. Block spam calls, nuisance calls. That's the Android. Anything that's not an iPhone, That's what you're going to see on your device. If you have a Google phone, AT&T, all the rest of those that are not Apple devices, you still have access to how to set those up. Looked like you had a question. Unknown senders is anyone that's not in your contact list. Okay? Your contact list is your bread and butter. These are the people I'm going to hear from and the people I want to communicate with. Anything else is unknown. It's unknown. Here's another one that I received. And this is one that I thought was really hilarious. Hi, this is Keith. Thanks for being a Detroit Edison Energy customer. Since new energy policies have passed, the local, federal, and government is giving you homeowners with DTE Energy rebates up to $2,000 to support Michigan's solar energy panel. Blah, blah, blah. Area code 342 comes out of Ghana. Why am I getting a call from Ghana? Do they think that I'm not going to look at that area code to see where this phone call came from? Again, this is one of the spam messages that came across in an unknown call. I didn't ask them for this, but they just, with ghost calling, they're doing everything in the 734 area code, cell phone or landline or VoIP. The next one that's over is another voicemail. Hi, my name is Todd Slogan, and I was reaching out to you today with some great news. I'm pleased to inform you that you have been selected this month third place winner for a payout of $5 million. I laughed at this. I said, this is just like Publishers Clearinghouse. We used to get those all the time. Publishers Clearinghouse, look at what you just won. No, you didn't. But this is the thing that's so crazy about these numbers and these unknown callers that send these text messages because they want you to call the number or click a link to go and collect your prize. And the moment you do that, you just told them, yes, this is a good address. Here's another phone call and message that we should all be concerned about. Can you hear me? They don't say hello. They just say, can you hear me? And guess what? If you say yes, through AI, they now have your voice. Interesting, as I was doing some research on this earlier this year and following what's happening with this, because there was so much concern about this type of phone call. And what was happening is that, wait a minute, this isn't just somebody asking if they can hear you, they're capturing your voice for something. And some were saying, well, they're not really doing anything with it yet, but you can't trust that. Not knowing now with artificial intelligence, and if you say yes, and they got your information, and you're applying for something, guess whose voice that they're going to click and say, yes, I'm ordering that. That's me talking. So when I see this, and this was something that went into my unknown calls, these are messages that came to my phone. So I'm showing you what's been coming to me over the last year. I delete so much, but it's so important to see, what does this look like? What am I seeing and what am I hearing? And this is something that when you see these and you see where it's coming from, Dundee, Michigan. Even though it says Dundee, ghost calling, which means that they are ghost calling through 734 area code, and they could be anywhere in the country or the world in order to do this. So this is something important. When you see these, you, again, block them, delete them, make sure that you are not following through with it. How do you block these numbers on an iPhone and an iPad? Here's the format. Again, when you go to information, block this caller, and then the second series of screens is showing you where you go about doing that. And again, when you go into your settings, you want to look for these specific topics. How do you block? How do you navigate through this process in order to make sure that your information is protected? every phone, every carrier. And I tell them every time I'll go to Verizon, AT&T, I'll visit these kiosks. Talk to me about how you're going to help consumers, because I want to know. I'm going to send them to you because they're purchasing your device. They've got your product, and I want to know how you're going to do that. You'd be surprised that a lot of these guys really, some of them do, but some of them are eager to talk to you about how to protect yourself. And it's so important to do that when you have a concern about the device that you are using. Again, it's not just a phone anymore. It's a computer. It's a handheld computer. So when you do Wi-Fi, which is a whole nother category of concern, because every time you're away from home or you go into a site where you have to get the Wi-Fi code to get in, but then when you go to public Wi-Fi, you can't trust them. You can't trust a lot of the public Wi-Fi formats because you've got individuals who can sit in the library or any of these places where could be Starbucks, could be any place that there's open public Wi-Fi. Individual could be sitting with their computer just like this, but they've got a screen that captures all Wi-Fi issues in the entire system. In some cases, you're using their Wi-Fi because they've masked the Wi-Fi and opened up theirs on their device to get you to log in. Oh, there's an open Wi-Fi, and you see that it's not blocked. Okay, I'll use this one. It could be the person sitting over there, and all of a sudden you're doing banking and everything else. He's got all your information. So be very wary when you go to public Wi-Fi sites. Blocking text messages, and here's again for Androids. This is the format that the vendors are providing. But also when you go into your settings, you will see how to block spam text messages on an Android. You'll see the process in which to do that. And it's so important to know where do you go in the settings in order to do that. But it's important to be able to do it. Make sure that you have a system set up that you block unwanted calls, you block unwanted text messages, or when they do come through, block them after that. Because a lot of times when I want to see them because of what I do, I want to be able to make sure that I have the ability to block information coming into my system. Earlier this year, and Apple loves to do this. God bless them, billion dollar company. But they create every year a new iPhone. And every time they do an upgrade, you got to buy the newest and the latest and the greatest. And now it vibrates, but who wants a phone that vibrates? That's all they show in the advertising. Touch the button on the side. Ooh, look at the lights. I don't need lights for my phone to show up like that. But here's one of the concerns that I had so many emails coming in to me from all of the sources that I work with regarding this new iPhone device. The important iPhone security update that happened this year, bringing in your devices together. I purposely got my phones out, and I want to show you. What happened with these devices when they put this new feature in? First thing that I thought about was the bad guys. Of course, that's what I do. And unfortunately, the pluses with this, if you want to share photographs and information with someone, you can turn that on and put your phone next to theirs, and it all transfers over. Think about this, though. I'm looking to steal data. They haven't turned it off because it automatically turned itself on when you did the update. I'm just going to walk through the grocery store, and I'm going to stand next to people, and if I get close enough, my phone's going to vibrate. And all of a sudden, everything on your phone gets sent to this phone. Just that quick. This little button, you go into the settings, you can turn this off. And I tested it. I wanted to see it, and I was like, oh my goodness. I did it like this. And I got about right here, and all of a sudden, this is my personal phone. My work phone started buzzing and vibrating. And I pulled it away, and it stopped. And I was like, oh my God, you can get pretty close to somebody and make sure that you get their information. It's just that quick and that easy, but you can turn that feature off. This is why this format that they put in place was a little on the scary side, but they were like, no, this is great for all the kids who have all their phones and 4,000 or 5,000 pictures and they want to share everything with everybody. It's easier to do it as opposed to just eye dropping. Yes, ma'am.
So is that on the iPhones now, or is that just on the newer page?
If you did an upgrade to the operating system, I think it was 16.05, something like that. If you did the upgrade, because they also send, and you also have automatic updates for the operating system on your phones when they occur, it's there. So go into your settings and go to AirDrop. AirDrop is where this setting is. Bring devices together, turn it off. That's what you want to do, is turn off in your iPhone, bringing devices together. And it's so scary to think that these guys, and I was on an Amtrak train coming back from an event I was at in Chicago, and I said, I'll just take the Amtrak, close enough to it. And I'm people watching. And Amtrak, they've got a Wi-Fi system on Amtrak. But this one individual caught my attention because on his laptop, I could tell he was looking to see who else was getting online. He was holding his laptop up and doing this, looking around. And I said, okay, he's got this Wi-Fi set up as opposed to getting the Amtrak Wi-Fi. He wants you to use his. So he stood up to make sure that his was in the radius of anybody on their phone, their tablet, or computer to be able to link into his Wi-Fi. And I just kind of looked at him and walked by him a couple of times. I said, hey, how you doing, man? You capturing the information? He just looked at me and he knew. When I said that to him, he slapped his computer down. I said, I work in law enforcement. I know what you're doing. Shut it off, man. It's not fair. It's also against the law. He didn't budge after that. He sat quietly with his laptop closed. And I talked to the conductor. I said, you need to just know, this is where I work, this is what I do. But this guy right here is capturing information. So whatever you can do in your Wi-Fi system here on the train, absolutely do that. The other important feature about this is stolen device protection. Again, this is in the settings in your iPhone. Face ID and passcode. You can turn on, which is something that is so important, if your iPhone is lost and you've got an iPad that's connected to your devices or on your computer, you can still control and lock out that device if it's stolen or lost. This is the nice option that's available for iPad and iPhone users. This is something that I found really unique. As an Xfinity customer myself, I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago, No More Robo is free to Xfinity users. And No More Robo is a service that provides you to be able to log into your Xfinity account and set up stop spam phone calls. And what will happen is when you set it up, if you're sitting watching your TV, spam phone call will come up on the screen. And it will tell you it's being blocked. And I'm like, yes, it's working. But that's a free service from Xfinity. And if you're in doubt with not sure how to set it up, again, go down to the Xfinity store and ask them to show you how to set it up. And they will work with you to do that. That's really important to be able to have at least some capability to do that. If you have AT&T, they also have robocalling blocking capabilities. And this is also something that on your devices, on your cell phones and your devices as well as computers, if you have the AT&T service, what you need to do in order to set it up. I like being able to do *67. That means it makes your number unknown to the person you're calling. So sometime I will call, if I get a suspicious, and let me see where this phone call is going. And I'll do *67, not on my cell phone, but I'll do it on my Xfinity VoIP phone number and device, and I'll call it. And then whenever you call a number back and it goes, nyeh, 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 that means clearly it's not an active number. It's ghost calling. Again, they're using a fake number, but in the system to be able to make calls. But if you try to call it back, it won't answer. It won't even connect. They can still call you back, but you can't call the number they're calling from. So with AT&T, you can press star 80 to turn off. You can do star 61, so I'll go back to the top, after an unwanted call in order to block it. You can turn it on and turn it off, but these formats give you both Xfinity, Apple, iPhone, as well as AT&T, the ability to get information blocked from your phone. The resources that we have used and are so beneficial to our community, and I talked with a lot of our AARP and a number of the elder abuse organizations that we work with, how important these resources are. Willing to help, taking the calls, particularly with how can I make sure that I don't become a victim. I'm so concerned about this. AARP and their Fraud Watch program, there is a Michigan branch of AARP that is very active. We worked with them with the Elder Abuse Coalition, with the Attorney General's office, and I've been a regular presenter statewide with a number of their efforts to talk about information like this, as well as where are the resources. And one of the workshops I did was way up in the UP. They had some of the best questions. It was so funny, but they had the best questions about what they're seeing that far away, and it's no different than what we're seeing here. They get spam, they get the same type of calls, and they're just, how are they finding me? I'm up in the UP, up in God's country. They can still find you. Doesn't matter, as long as they got an area code, they can find you. But these resources that they provide with how to spot scams, how to deal with the information that's coming to you, it's so important to be able to know where. I also have put these QR codes up so you can use your camera to zero in on the QR codes. And again, even when you look back at this on the YouTube channel, you can see the specifics of how do we find this information? How do we work with it? How is it that I can protect myself? And with these, we have, this is a really good story, and I talked about this from the AARP article. Zelly scams, Venmo, and other P2P, when you see that P2P, peer-to-peer transferring of funds, is something that's so important to be able to not only understand and learn, but also how do I make sure that I'm not a victim? Here's something that's really important. If, I no longer say if, it's when you become a victim. Some of the things that you need to do. Again, this isn't to frighten or make you scared, but because our information is, we're so vulnerable right now with data breaches, that all of this information about us is out there in the domain and on the dark web. If you are a victim, initiate a credit freeze. Credit freeze helps make sure protecting all of your personal information, that no one can use your accounts even though they may have it. They can't use it, they can't open up new credits, nor can they access what you already have on file. Because they will try to go in, I lost my credit card, or I lost my card to Sears or to TJ Maxx or any of the companies that you've got a credit card. Can you send me a new card? And it doesn't, and here's a catch that I'm glad that a lot of these companies will do now. The address that they want you to send it to doesn't match the one they want you to send. The scammers, they want you to send it to them. So that's a red flag right out the bat for them, is not to send information to an address that's not matched, does not match the file that the account is in. And then they will call you. I'm glad that we have consumer-friendly businesses now that we're doing all of this business with via credit cards and everything, that they're paying attention to this. They see when there's victimization potentially happening, and they flag it. And if you've got a credit freeze in place, absolutely, they're not doing anything with it. and you need to confirm and call us with the correct information. And they don't have everything, but they have enough when they do these dark web formats. We have 3 credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. These are the 800 numbers for these 3 organizations. Every time that you get a data freeze letter in the mail, they will cite these 3 locations. Contact them, call them. If they tell you, and I said this earlier, if they tell you that you can use one of the big firms, is called Kroll, Kroll, and they monitor and will work with victims in these data breaches. And you can follow what they're designing to tell you we will do for you, because your information was with us, and now you've been a victim. We want to help. So you can sign up through them to make sure that you get notification to any time that someone attempts to use what was in their plan, you can protect yourself. You can also go to annualcreditreport.com. Let me tell you why I wanted to make sure you could see what this looks like. If you see annualcreditreport.com, if you just Google it, about 50 companies will come up to say that freeannualcreditreports.com. And it's not the legitimate site. Even with this, that's free to you, you want to be sure that you go to the right one. Just a couple of weeks ago, when I was working on this prior to another presentation, and I was stunned that maybe 15, 20 companies came up under the search, and they will pay to get their information on top of others. You know, this is the tricky part about advertising. You can pay to get yours up at the top. So the first thing that people see is yours and not the legitimate companies. This annual report credit, and you see it's in 3 different colors. That's the legitimate site. I specifically grabbed that one from the annual credit report so that you can see it. And there's also, I put a hyperlink there as well so that you can see what that looks like. Here's the part when I was talking with the officers earlier, and one of the things that we encourage. If you are a victim of a crime, identity theft or fraud, having that police report number is having your back, particularly as it relates to credit cards and purchases that are made when someone recreates you, because they won't believe that it's not you. You want to make sure that you know that you filed a report. When you go to the credit bureaus and put the freeze on, it will block, it will red flag anything that's attempted to be opened in your name. And you want to make sure that you do that. But with this process, and this is from the Department of Justice that's really encouraging, even the police departments that don't want to take police reports, you know, it's like we're too busy with too many other things. You can go online and fill out a form or go to one of these other sites. I just want a number from you, because this is where I live, and I'd like to have a police report number for documentation purposes only. I just need to fight the battle, and I need your help. We'll give you the police report number, at least in our jurisdiction. We want to make sure that we empower residents, and most of our agencies want to do that. You want to make sure that you tell them this is the process. Some of those locations will send you to places like this, the Internet Crime Complaint Center. Go there and fill out your report. Sure, I'd like to do that, and I can do that, but I'd still like to have a police report number. Because we want to make sure, and one of the sites that I'll reference here in a few minutes, when I went to the location where I found information about me, I called and pulled up that police department and said, oh, can you help me out? This is one of the places that they wanted to send me to. I said, yeah, I've done my research, and I found some information here, and I'd like to just know what to do. But it's important that you get information in the system that you have been a victim. This complaint center is nationwide, and again, it collects data similar to the ones I started off with the Federal Trade Commission. And that data that tells us 5.2 million in 2022 and 5.4 in 2023. I'm sure 2024 numbers are going to be staggering, because this number, it just continues to rise with both identity theft, which is one category, and fraud, which is another. and that's how they're tracked. Here is the Michigan Attorney General's website. Again, a QR code for the Attorney General's website. They have a number of things that they do there through the Consumer Protection Division that you can file a complaint. You can see consumer complaints. You can deal with charities, renters' rights, all at the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. And I have to give them credit. They do a tremendous job with tracing down and working with a number of entities to address the issues that we're talking about today at the state level, but they're also monitoring what's happening at the national level. So it's important for us to be able to see not only the specifics, but what things are we seeing and what are we doing that's important for us. Here's another organization. Thanks, you gentlemen. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. That's our Ann Arbor PB. Thank you, guys. Elder Law of Michigan. I've worked very closely with them, with the Attorney General's office. Abuse format and guardianship, a number of things that this organization has been involved with, but they do pension counseling, benefits counseling, Michigan Elder Justice. This group does tremendous work for seniors across the state of Michigan. I would encourage, find out about them. I've had a lot of, particularly as I served as power of attorney for my father-in-law in another state, I used the resources that I connected with here to make sure I knew what I was able to do in another state, because that was so important for me to be able to know how can I make sure that I'm in compliance, taking care of him, because my POA is registered here in the state of Michigan, but I'm taking care of him in Philadelphia. So I did the deep dive and did a lot of research to make sure that I knew what I needed to do, because not only did this organization help me, but you hear a lot about things that you do as a caretaker. And a lot of things that we're seeing right now, particularly when it comes to some of the programs that are available. And, so it's something important that this group will help you with. They do research, they send you information. We had a number of things that we were able to do to help make sure that we took care of Dad. And one of those, and I've had a lot of questions on this, and I bring this up because once you do these programs and connect with organizations like this, one of the things we did for my father-in-law is that we got a reverse mortgage. When I did the research on the reverse mortgage, there's some companies out there that's all over television about how great they are that don't believe it. Don't believe it. I had to fire one of the largest companies providing this service when we started with them because Dad knew about them and he wanted to start there. After 4 months, I fired them to get my HUD number back after all of the prerequisites that I needed to go through in order to do that for him. These companies, when you get involved, you want to make sure that your information is protected, because as power of attorney, I had to help protect his information, his finances, his home, and everything about him. Scams and fraud, all of that information that was now in the public domain, I had to make sure that I was monitoring full time. And I did that because I cared about him. That was Dad's Z. We took care of him. And based on these skills and this skill level, I had to tell them after a number of phone calls, let me tell you where I worked. You're giving me the runaround, but let me tell you what I do for a living. And as soon as I began to describe for them training, background, and what I've been through, they complete 360 with how they approached and how they talked to me. I said, you don't need to do this because I'm telling you what I do for a living. You need to do this for everybody. Don't sell folks a bill of goods. Don't hoodwink them into getting something they don't need. Sending me all kinds of stuff that's irrelevant. I don't need that. I want to make sure that I have legitimate access to the things that I need. This is something that was important for us to do. And as a family, we were very committed. And so this was something that we did for him, but this is something that this organization, if you need their assistance, they can help you. Here's another one of them, actually two. Consumer Financial Protection Division. These are governmental tools, resources for you as consumers that are legitimate. They work with the FTC, all of these groups that collect data and provide information. There are some tie-offs. page tie-offs that I believe everyone may have received, that I received from the Federal Trade Commission. Dr. Sandra, I'm going to give you these 3 copies because I want the church to order some of these. This one, phone scams, and it's a how to avoid phone scams that we've been talking about. The other, which is probably, and you can get this one online, is also identity theft if you are a victim, a recovery plan. I have ordered 500 at a time when I've done this, and I put it out at community meetings and gone in a heartbeat. The other churches that I've gone to, when I've taken a stack, everybody wants one. And if you are a victim, you need to make sure that you get one of these. This is another one, and these are all free publications. Taking charge, what to do if you are a victim of identity theft. These booklets are how-tos, and they're so important and critical to have. And I'm going to give them to my good friend.
Thank you.
So that she can order some of those. All the information to order those are there. These organizations have done a lot of work to help make sure that you have access. How do you do this? How do you help recover? How do you help deal with becoming a victim? And it's something that I love the Better Business Bureau, who tracks and puts out notices and alerts. The Southeast Michigan Better Business Bureau is on overdrive talking about data breaches, particularly as Wayne County, Flint, Michigan, all of these entities that have been hit, if you've got the letter change, what is it, change? Because I got 2 of them. We got one, I got one, and my wife got one. Drawing blank on the name of it. This company, they're out of California, and they are connected with Blue Cross and Blue Shield and every Medicare provider in the country. They were hacked into. And if you got a letter that had changed something on it, yes, ma'am, you got it? That means your information is on the dark web. As a third-party vendor that was hacked into, they sent a letter out to everybody that was a part of the plans they work with nationwide. That was one of the largest data breaches until we had the second one that occurred. National Public Data. NPD. Third-party vendor. 2.9 billion. Social Security numbers, home addresses, everything about you was hacked into and put up on the dark web. 2.9 billion. The frightening part about this is that we can't tell these companies, protect my data. They're supposed to do it anyway. But because these systems have been hacked, and our information is a part of their system through the companies that we work with, it's important that when we get the notice, is that we pay attention to it. Again, it's not if. Say it with me. When. When we are victims that this is real. My daily prayer before I walk in that door, before I get in my car, is how can I help the community members that may call and need my assistance? This is the part for me that is just incredible, being in this role for this long, to know how important what I'm presenting to you today is for everybody, not just seniors, but for all of us. Yes, ma'am. Are they catching any of these individuals who are doing the hacking and setting up ransomware to get their data back? Most of it's being tracked overseas. They have no jurisdiction here stateside in order to do what we need to do to stop them. Because once they hack into these systems and they grab the data, They send a ransomware notice, pay me millions of dollars to get your information back that you didn't protect. Not my fault, I got it. Now you have to pay me to get it back. The FBI recommends to a lot of these businesses, don't pay the ransomware. But a number of our hospitals, our school districts that have been hacked into, they've paid it in order to get their systems back. And I'm sure, Dr. Harrison, your role as an administrator, this probably came up quite often in the discussions about cybersecurity and emails and hyperlinks that people are not paying attention to that may click innocently that exposes the entire school system or the business. And the reason that, for me, this is so personal right now, because with these data breaches that are occurring, guess who's a victim? Me. This is what's important about credit freezes and information that you can get from the systems that you work with. A lot of our credit cards have CreditWise and have the ability to track information that's out there on your behalf. When you look at your credit score, and they always talk about how important your credit score is. Yes, it's critically important for doing business, your mortgage, all of these things that's out there. But when you see alert coming up on financial documents and on the websites, open it to see what it is. Here's something for me that was a red flag, and this was right after the change information from the healthcare entity and then another one with the NPD. This individual, it says right up at the top, this is a screenshot. On the dark web, my Social Security number was compromised. Had put up the last 4 digits, but August of this year, just a few weeks ago, this individual, this is what's incredible. Not often do you find the person that's got your information, but I found him. This is who he is, and I want the world to know this guy named Julian Pintor, he's out stealing data. Not only did he have this address, that's 1831 West Hoskins. Everybody hear that? West Hopkins in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He had 2 addresses that he put up. I did a search of him, the phone numbers and everything that was connected to it. None of it was legitimate. Which means he's stolen other people's data in order to use it to try to get mine. This is how these scammers work. When you see information that comes across, your information's been compromised on the dark web. Here's an example. I've got my system locked down, but am I going to try to find this guy? Oh, yeah. I'm not done with him yet. I'm not done with him. I want to find out where he's at or who he is or what he's connected to that's using this information. But he won't be able to do anything that's in my name. That's why this is so important for us to make sure that when we get information about a compromise on the dark web, pay attention. So, I'm sorry? This notification came from my credit contacts and the monitoring that I have set up on my systems. This is legitimate. When I saw it, I was like, oh, geez, oh my God, how many times? 2 times, 2 different addresses he used. And I said, okay, this is important not only for me to know, but if I see this name come up anywhere else, I know that he's a part of whatever this scamming process is, using this, getting information off the dark web. And when everybody's, what is the dark web? What does that mean? That means information is set up. There are multiple layers of systems on the internet. We only use one of them that's public, majority of the time. But there are other formats that these individuals can go to and harvest this information that's been stolen, put it all up there, and the guys who frequent these sites for this type of activity to make people victims with your personal information, that's what they do. They go there to get it, and then as quickly as they can, and they just keep going from one to the next. If mine is blocked, they won't stay at mine. They'll go to the next one that's not blocked. We are all. It's not a matter of if, say it with me, when. Yes, ma'am. correct. And your question is good because and comment regarding the government and the usage of the internet. We no longer rely much on snail mail. And the Postal Service, they're going to raise the rates again, just by the way, because all of us are using email. And it was funny, because when this first started, the Postal Service actually wanted to charge a nickel for every email sent because it said mail. That didn't work. That didn't work. I laughed when I saw that. How can they enforce that? I'm like, oh, okay. But this is something when we look at the government, our financial institutions, everything that we do is now connected to an online service. They can't protect us. Social Security, it was hacked into. You know, so these governmental entities that store our information and have it, we just have to be careful with everything that we do to be our best advocate to protect our information, which is why I wanted to get to this last screen here. When we talk about, again, how do you protect yourself? Why is this important? This initiation is critical to be able to have the process to initiate credit freezes with these 3 credit bureaus. You can get this free annual credit report, and you can see what's out there, what you've done, and if someone else has tried to get it or has access to your accounts. We have to be our first advocate and first line of defense in this current environment of scams and fraud that we are seeing in 2024 and beyond. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Your questions have been good. Other questions that you might have. I know that this is a lot of information and slightly overwhelming. And it's important to be able to, again, go back to see this, watch it again with your family, with your friends, so that you can get your phones out, you can get the things that's there, and go to these websites that we're referencing in order to get more information. Question or comment? Way in the back. Is there a way to find out if your information is on the dark web? There was a company that worked with a number of cybersecurity entities that just recently posted an article connected to the National Public Data Breach. That is a secure site that you can actually put your information in, and it'll tell you if your information is on the dark web through that data breach. But here's the key. The most important information you're going to receive is that letter in the mail that says your information's been involved in a data breach. When you get that letter from that company, that's a cue to you, your information is on the dark web. Yes, sir, comment. How do you access the dark web? Most of the computer geeks that have access to these dark websites, there is coding, there is different formats in order to get to where this information is posted. And just like these, I call them hacktivists that they call themselves, you have to know how to get to these locations, because you're going to have to log off the current internet that we use every day to go to a different format. And some of these sites, you have to be members of them to get access to the information. So because they know that law enforcement and FBI, everybody's looking to find who are these groups. And most of them are overseas. They got different servers literally all over the world. And once someone grabs it and they post it, it's a chase to find out where it is. That's why once you get a document in the mail that says you've been compromised, that's when you know, I need to do something to protect myself. Yes, ma'am. Here's the key, and that's a good question, because And the question was, what do you do when you've unsubscribed and you've blocked the information or the source that's contacted you? Your information is out there and it's been sold. They bought it from somebody else. You just have to keep blocking them. That's what I'm doing. I just keep blocking them. Every time one that comes in, nope, don't want you, and nope, I'm not going to unsubscribe. I'm going to hover over the address that it was sent from, block that one, and then unsubscribe again. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's worth it to do it in the long run. Block them, block them, block them. Yes, ma'am, comment or question? Everyone's a good question. Yes, and that's why when you go to these three credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, they all have services that monitor your credit. They monitor everything going on. You can sign up for the free information or you can sign up for a specific plan. And that's what they do, that they will monitor your information and let you know if someone's attempting to or help block any attempts to open up credit in your name. Yes. Right. When they lock up your information, it's like the credit freeze that I have on my accounts. If I need to use my credit for any purposes, I unlock it and then lock it back. The credit card companies, once it's locked, they won't allow anything to happen to your accounts. They block them and they will reject anything that will come in. And that's why these services that are available through them, and query all of them. Find out which one's the best and which one does what. You know, that way you can find out this company, how can they help me? Because I can't do this. This is overwhelming. I'm going to pay you a small amount monthly to do it for me. And that's really important. Yes, ma'am, comment or question? Right, there is one, they give you 1 year of free service, but then you can also purchase a plan. And you decide which of these three companies, which of their plans do you want to work with. Correct. And it's all spelled out on their websites. And you can actually call and talk to a representative at the agency, at these bureaus as well. Michigan Medicine. Yes, Michigan Medicine was one of those that had a data breach. Yep. Yeah, password, ID. Mm-hmm. It potentially could, and this is the thing that and the question is, when you get a letter and they're telling you there's certain things that when that letter goes out, wasn't compromised, because the information is now up on the dark web, you just have to assume it's all out there. Somebody's got whatever they hacked into and got from you, they got it. And I need to do whatever I need to do, what you're telling me to do in this letter, this company or this system, whatever you're recommending, I'm going to do that. Redundancy, the more that you reply, the better. Every time you get a letter, call the company that's on there. If they can help protect you, the more companies you got looking out for you, the better. Because they are the ones that had your data. And they're responsible to make sure that they help protect you. Other questions or comments that you might have? I think it's going to get worse. And I appreciate it. I think you were at one of the University of Michigan presentations that I did for the seniors for U of M. I think because of the data breaches, we're hearing more now about the data breaches because the companies have to tell you. They have to tell you when there's been a data breach. And so that's why we're hearing more about these incidents occurring, because they're responsible. They have to secure their data. They have to secure the information that we've given them access to through this third-party program, how to be able to make sure we protect ourselves. So, is it getting worse? Because these hacktivists are now finding more vulnerabilities in all of these third-party vendors. If you remember, the automotive industry got hit really hard last year. It locked up everything. They couldn't sell cars. They couldn't do any business. They got hacked into, and they just took everything and locked it down until they paid a ransom. These groups overseas, that's 24/7 for them. How can we victimize systems that are not protected? And that's what we have to do, because we're in those systems as consumers with everything that we do. Dr. Harris? Change was one of them that was at healthcare, because it was, well, it was, yeah, and there's been so many of them. You know, it'd fill up 2-3 pages just talk about how many data breaches that have occurred. You know, just this week alone, every week there's 3 or 4 more that are impacted. And when you get entire municipalities, Wayne County, the city of Flint, all completely locked down because someone hacked into their systems, the courts couldn't do work, there was no ability to do anything at all. And so these systems just have to be protected, and we have to rely on the infrastructure of these companies that we're working with in order to protect our data that we entrust in them.
You know, Richie, I can see a sequel to this being us coming in here one day and bringing our devices, because when you were going through how to turn just knowing how to protect yourself.
Yes.
I think that would be great.
Dr. Well, and this is what's interesting, Dr. Harris. You bring up a good point, because I did that with one of my senior meetings. I had everybody get their phones out, and everything that I showed you is what we did. And I literally went around the room to show them where to get the information and where to go into the settings in order to do the things that we described today. And that's why it's so important based on all of these different cell phone formats, AT&T, the Google, Xfinity, Apple, I mean, everybody's got a phone, Consumer Plus, all of these devices that they sell that are not Apple are all under the Android format. So whenever you're asked, if you don't have an Apple phone, automatically say it's an Android, because that's the category of all cell phones other than iPhones, of what they're called, and the system that they use underneath. Okay? Yeah. And it's a good point, because she's saying that, her son who works with this in another law enforcement agency and addresses this issue with consumers every day. And that's why I always encourage, you don't have to be polite to these guys, and it's so hard not to, because we are polite in nature, just to hang up on them. Because once you call them back, confirm that it is a good number, to them, they can now sell your number again, and now they got you on the phone. And they know your name, they're going to be real sweet, and they're going to encourage you to buy something. So it's best to just hang up on them. Yes, ma'am, comment or question? Here's what's important about when you do banking online, is to have two-factor authentication set up, which means when you log in, they're going to ask you, you either get a text, you can say, text me if I'm logging in to confirm it's me before I do any banking, or I allow you to open up my account to do anything. And once you will get a text. You can say, text me to confirm. You can set that up in your setting. Most of our financial institutions are all moving to this two-factor authenticating. So it's important, as whenever it's offered, use it. Absolutely use it. And that way you can make sure that you protect your information, as well as with your credit cards. Xfinity does that. I have an Xfinity app on my phone. Anytime someone attempts to log in, even myself, if I'm on a different device, approve login. Yes, sir. A rule of thumb regarding solicitations via text, via telephone, via cell phone. The rule of thumb is if you didn't ask for it, I don't need it. I don't need it. You're trying to sell me something, I don't know who you are, I didn't ask for it. Delete, go to junk mail. That's what I do. I just delete it. Any solicitation that's out there, if I've called a company, I already know, and they're replying to me for my requests. But because we get so many solicitations via email, via phone calls, every day, all day. Earlier when I talked about ghost calling, when they do the auto dialing, they're doing it by area code and every number, 649, or whatever the first three digits are, and then it just keeps going and going and going until they get somebody to answer it. Oh, God, no. Don't give out your credit card. Yep. You don't want to give that out. Yes, ma'am.
So I want to follow up on what Mrs. Carter was saying. You know, my win has happened, right? So I have been a victim where they hacked my checking account.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it until I got the bank statement and started charging me the $33 for my golden emergency that I knew I had not made. So now when I do my online banking, I go directly to the bank. I don't pay through the company. I go directly to the bank. And somehow they got my routing number and my account number. That's how they were able to hack in. And so when the bank, either it's electronic or if the bank sends a check, it will not have my routing number on it and it won't have my account number on it. And so everything through the bank, the bank is sending the money
Yeah.
rather than me going directly to the company paying online.
Yeah, and what she's saying is that with their banking institutions, you can now pay your bills online. So you don't have to go to the company website. That could be malicious or something might happen. And one of the things that's interesting too, most of our financial institutions, even if you set up and block your routing number, if you Google the bank based on state or wherever you are, it'll have the routing number for that financial institution online. They don't have your account number, but at least they have the routing number. You know, so that's a good point, that use your financial institutions. If you can pay bills online through your financial institutions, easier way to do it. Yes, ma'am.
This happened to me. I wrote a check, and the check, and now the check to where I was mailing it, to this institution. Someone cashed the check, and it didn't get to who I was sending the check to. And I told, this is my And if your account number and your routing number are there, they cash it. They don't look to see who's endorsing.
Yeah.
And so I did talk to my president about it, and they gave me some feel. So I told them, I said, well, we're gonna see if we can send it up to our theft department for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to decide what we're gonna do there. I said, you got a woman with that thing. I wanna talk. I can come and talk to you
Yeah.
board of directors, because I'm a
Yeah.
member
Yeah.
of this credit union. So you don't have to think whether or not you wanna do this. I can request to talk to them, because I've been on board of directors, and I have had people, members who come and talk to us, and we decide what to tell them to do.
Yeah.
And we could go against the people who are telling you, you're gonna think about it. They could direct them to do other things. So,
And here's, and in reference to that with checks, particularly checks, because we all used to use checks. Very rarely do I write a check now. But when these mail thieves steal mail, they will go through to see if there's any checks in any of the envelopes. And then they'll do check washing, where they will take off where you were going to, wherever you were going to mail it or whoever you were paying, and put in something different. Most likely it could be their name. And when, just like you're saying, they don't look at it, they just run the amount and the numbers at the bottom of the check and run it through, and then they make the payment. Check washing, we don't see it as much anymore, but that was something that was really big at one time. Yes, ma'am.
this is a little off subject, but I was interested when you said that they raised the price of stamps because so many people are emailing. I went to the post office yesterday because I had run out of my 45 cents.
Yeah, forever stamp.
73 cents. I was shocked. If I had known, I would have bought a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, we got a couple rolls of the forever stamps. Yes, they just announced that a couple weeks ago that they were raising the rates once again. I think it went up already. Yeah. Yep, it went up. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah, and it's important when you're doing charitable giving and you want to make a donation through one of the peer-to-peer formats, is to find out which ones are the most legitimate. Who's got the track record? Who can you trust? Right now, we're seeing a lot of information coming, as I said earlier, with Helena and the storm. The Red Cross has been at the core of always helping. We can always know that the Red Cross is going to be there to help. But again, you need to make sure you go to a Red Cross site, not one of the fake ones that they'll put up instantly because they know people, their hearts pounding and wanting to help. So that's important for us to make sure that we do the necessaries to protect ourselves as well as our finances. Other comments or questions? This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Let's pray before we end here today. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here at the Second Baptist. We appreciate Dr. Daniels and all of the things that they've done here at the church with helping to reinforce the importance of community and helping each other in this format. We thank you for this opportunity to reach out to our community members here and helping them take this information abroad. Oh God, we give you many thanks for all that you're doing, and we'll continue to do. Bless us for health and strength. God, we give you thanks. Amen and amen.
All right, let's give Mr. Coleman a hand. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. This information has just been great. I hope that others will take advantage and look at this on YouTube. Certainly, we want to thank you so much for taking your time to come out today. This has been a wonderful presentation. You always do a good
Thank you
job.
so much. Thank you.
All right, and I'd like to thank the ones who have come out this afternoon or this morning to be with us, as well as our viewing audience. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to thank the media team, Brian Jones and Keisha Moore, for coming and making it possible